Hi, everyone. I am Mary Kate Luke. I'm the marketing specialist here at Hasmark Publishing International, and I am joined today by my co-host, Jen Gibson. She is the Director of Marketing and Publishing with Hasmark, and we are here today with a wonderful author of ours, Mike Lorario. He has written another book. It is called Management in Balance, a fulcrum-centric approach for new and reluctant managers. We're so happy to have you here today, Mike. Can you start by telling us a little bit about this fulcrum-centric approach to management and sort of the meaning behind that?
Absolutely. As I have journeyed through life here and I work with my clients and my time in the military, I become a real believer in this concept that life is an issue of both ends. Like, we're constantly facing questions, and we can either approach them as a dilemma, which is an either or proposition, or we can approach them with some essence of balance, which is a both end proposition. So the key to success is finding the equilibrium between these things that seem to be contrasting or seem to be in conflict with each other, because the ultimate solution probably involves a little bit of both. Or in the case of leadership in balance, your natural tendencies versus what the situation demands of you as a leader, displaying leadership. Or in management in balance, the idea that you may be in a condition of abundance with a lot of stuff, but you better be ready not only to manage that, but to be ready for the opposite condition, which is scarcity. And so that's where it comes from for me, this idea that life is both end, and balance means equilibrium, not equal.
Excellent. What was your inspiration for the managerial concepts within this book?
I have to say it's been my observations. Mostly since I've left the Army, going on 15 years now, 16 years, that I've been working with civilian clients. And my observations are that a lot of people get thrown into management positions, leadership positions, simply because they were a top performer, the best at what they did, whether that was writing code or designing plans as an engineer, selling shoes, running a store, right? They get elevated to that next level, which may be from going from, just dealing with yourself and the work you have to now managing other people or managing other stores if you were a store manager. And that promotion often comes with little to no preparation. Some people will do it on their own because they have an interest and a drive and they want that promotion and they want to move through the hierarchy of an organization. But a lot of people are pretty happy doing what they're doing, and that's why they're good at it. And then all of a sudden, the leadership or the senior leaders in an organization will go, "Hey, Mike, you're really good at what you do. We need you to be the manager of all the other engineers here, all the other scientists, all the other researchers." And one of three things generally happens after that. One, the person who's been promoted fails miserably. Two, they work it out, but it takes a long time, and everybody on their team is miserable while this is happening. Or three, they're a natural, or they've been studying and they're ready, and so it works out. But even that may take some time. So two of those three likely outcomes are suboptimal at best. And what I wanted to do with Management in Balance, and the audience is primarily these new or reluctant managers, these people who went kicking and screaming into a management position. I wanted to give them just the essentials. Like, here's a starting point. And that was the inspiration, because they're really great people, usually really smart people, hardworking people that get thrown into the deep end of the swimming pool without much help. And so I guess this is intended to be something of a life raft, or just something to help them hold on to when they find themselves in that position. Now, I mean, anybody who's got an MBA is certainly welcome to read either of these books. But I didn't write them with those people in mind. I wrote it for these new and reluctant managers.
Absolutely. And it's a difficult task to be kind of just thrown into that role. And you're right, there's not always a lot of preparation and resources for people. So
no, and it's not because leadership is mean or evil. It's because they're in a hurry, right? Mm-hmm. And they've got numbers they've got to hit, and they've got deadlines they got to hit, and they look across their talent base and they go, "Wow, you're really good." So I offer the story of Donna Frazier, who's kind of a compilation of some of these people that I've observed and her journey through this process, and how, it's just, what do you do, right? Do I say no to this promotion and lose my job? Do I struggle with this? Where do I go to get help? And so this book, Management and Balance, is an attempt to give that help. It's intended to be a complement to this other book, Leadership and Balance. And it'll be the bridge to my next book, which is Solving the Leader's Dilemma and Finding the Balance Between Management and Leadership.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned your first book here, which is incredible. I wanted to know what your process has sort of been like different from the first book that you wrote.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I'm trying to do work at the same time. When I wrote Leadership and Balance, I took most of 2016 off. I think I had 2 paying gigs throughout that summer, the spring and summer, before we launched in October of 2016. I also had been thinking about leadership and balance for the 10 years that I had been out of the Army. It was something that was always in the back of my head, if not foremost in my thoughts. So I had a lot of the book written before I ever sat down to put pen to paper, so to speak. This time, this book became a necessity to writing the third book in many ways. I felt I needed to define management similar to how I had defined leadership, and to give like that piece of it to people, because they're not the same thing. They're very different. And so I'm like, okay, let me frame it. Let me make it just like this book. Let me talk about the 4 essential domains of management, because I talk about 4 essential domains of leadership and balance. Let me structure it in a way that it kind of goes through the same process of defining what this domain is and defining these opposite conditions and giving tools and tips and techniques that can help the manager who's struggling. And so I had to do that with these 4 domains that I've settled on for management. And it was hard because at the same time, I've got clients I got to take care of. I'm doing coaching. I'm doing workshops. I have speaking engagements. And and it's that balance between what I need to do, these commitments I've made to my clients, and what I want to do, which is sit down and write. And so I find myself spending less time playing golf.
All right. What do you hope your current and future managers are able to take away from the story and its message?
That it's not as hard as it looks, that if you continue to learn and grow, you're going to succeed. Perseverance is everything. Don't give up. And there's never one answer, right? There's multiple answers, multiple good answers to most problems. And so what I hope to do here is give them potential solutions to their problems with multiple techniques and tools and things they can do. And that's my hope, that they walk away with some sense of, hey, I can do this. Let me get it as simple as possible and deal with these things at their most common base level. And then once I get good at it, I can start getting efficient. I can start getting creative, right? But it's finding that effectiveness first, and then you can move on.
Absolutely. What would you say sets this book and its concepts apart from maybe others that are out there?
Again, the audience, my target audience is those new and reluctant managers. I didn't write this. I'm not a Harvard MBA, and I didn't write this for Harvard MBAs. I don't have a PhD. I have a master's in leadership development. But it's not a wonky book. It's not a thick book, right? My books are an easy read. I think that they cover the basics. So they're clear, they're concise, they're informative, and they're entertaining. That's my intention. I hope that that's what they end up being. And so I don't need, 800 pages. I've gone back to reading some of the classics because I'm trying to be a better writer. And so I recently went back to the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'd never read it before. It was recommended to me. I read Crime and Punishment. Actually, I listened to Crime and Punishment. I can't imagine how thick that book is as a book, right? And so a classic of literature, but, you don't need that for what I'm trying to help people with. In fact, I have a client who, or a company I've just recently worked with, very innovative people. And I just saw a note that their CEO just mandated my book, or made my book mandatory reading for everybody in their company. And I just blown away, totally unexpected. When I had met him back in June, when I did this piece of work for them, he said to me, he goes, I want to congratulate you on writing a good short book. He says, people give me these books all the time that are 300 pages long. And I'm like, I don't have time to read this. And I can't get through it because it's just too dense and too thick. And so that's what I'm trying to do with these books, short, sweet. Again, I go back to what I coach people all the time. If you're presenting, if you're speaking, if you're doing anything, it's got to be 4 things. It's got to be informative. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be clear, and it's got to be concise. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. That's my audience. That's who I'm trying to get to. That's the way I'm trying to do it. I hope that makes sense.
It does, for sure. What sort of roadblocks did you hit in the writing process, and how did you get past them?
Man, I think the same roadblocks that anybody who's ever tried to do this, it's that thing, resistance, right? Part of it's that voice in the back of your head that says, do people really need this? Or, that really isn't good enough. And my hero and my savior in all of this is Steven Pressfield. He's a great author he's written some amazing books of fiction, some historical nonfiction where but he takes a little bit of license in how he writes. But he writes a lot about this getting through resistance and the art of war is what he refers to as the war of art. The Art of War is a very famous book on strategy written by a Chinese philosopher. We'll call him Sun Tzu. And one of Steven Pressfield's greatest books is this book he calls The War of Art, and talking about how there's this war that's going on as you're trying to develop your art, as you're trying to be a professional, and resistance is the big thing. And so he's the guy I lean into when I am trying to remember that, do the work, get the reps in, get it down, get help, get a great editor. His editor, Sean Coyne, I've participated in some of his workshops. Get a good editor. If that's the competition, I apologize. But I mean, find somebody. You guys are great. I'd have to say let me go back to what's changed and what's different for me besides working. You all have changed. Hasmark Publishing International has grown and developed. We weren't doing this 5 years ago when I launched Leadership in Balance. And so this experience has been amazing. And you're a big help. So get through the resistance by building a team, having a great team. Love working with you guys. Additionally, I lean in on the writings of Steven Pressfield because I think he does a great job of talking about resistance and how you fight that. So that's my biggest roadblock.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. That's very kind of you. We're always happy to be a big help for our authors. So we love to hear that. Now, your book, obviously, it's going to be launching soon, which is very exciting. Where can people get a hold of a copy of Management in Balance once it launches?
So on my website, there'll be a landing page for signing up to purchase early, and we'll get those out in the launch week. Otherwise, Amazon.com is the place to go to purchase Management in Balance.
Great.
And that'll be available. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, where can people find you online?
People can find me online at my website, bethefulcrum.com. And they can find me on LinkedIn, Mike Lorario. And I also have a page there for my company, Crispian Consulting, and a page there for Be the Fulcrum. Same thing with Instagram. I'm available at Be the Fulcrum and at MP Lorario.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It was so wonderful chatting with you today and getting to learn more about these concepts and how they will hopefully help tons of managers out there. So thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been amazing.
Thank you. My pleasure.